Is there any other person who want to talk? Or it's my turn? I want to know if all of us are there. And can you please see my screen? Can you? I'm sharing my screen. Can you see it? Oh, someone said I can't hear anything. Can you hear me now? This is Wale. Can you hear me now? Okay, you can also see my screen. Aisha Siedu, can you hear me now? All right, great. And today I'm having ladies. I have Fadima Tushehu, I have Aisha, and who else? All right, please kindly mute so that we can go ahead. Um, Before I proceed, Fadima Tushehu. What when we talk about feeding, what comes to mind? Great, great. I think that is great to know. So basically, I'm sure you can all see my screen, right? All right. So when we talk about feeding in livestock, basically it's not about giving your animals anything at all for them to eat, or it's not about making sure that your animals are filled to the brim, but it's more than just that. Just like you clearly said, Fadima too, sometimes it's about the objective that you have. For instance, if your objective as a livestock farm is to fatten your sheep, to fatten your cattle, whatever it is that you have, if your objective is to fatten them so that you increase their value, sell them and make profit, then that is your objective. If you someone is Please mute, Fadima, to please mute yourself. Mhm. So on the other hand, if your objective is to make sure that your animals they recover very fast anytime they give birth. For instance, there's this myth that goats give birth every 6 months, but that is not always the case. It is possible, but that is not always the case. So let's say, as a livestock farmer, your optimum goal is to make sure that your breeding stock are able to deliver every 6 months. So you bring a feeding program that will enable you to what? Let your animals give birth every 2 months. Sorry, every 6 months. So that is your objective. So it is based on this objective that you feed your animals. So whilst Mr. A, let's say Madam A, who is Fadimatu in this case, is looking to feed animals so that they can grow fat, she'll sell it and make profit on it. Oh, yeah. And make profit. Guys, a minute, please. So that she may make profit on it. On the other hand, someone's your aim could be that you just want your animals to recover very fast anytime they give birth, so that you can multiply so fast. On the other hand, someone's his feeding can be on the fact that she or he wants to make sure that his case or her case grows so fast enough that even when a sheep is at the age of 6 months, she can sell it and make profit on it. You get it? So it's based on the objective that is going to determine how your feeding program is going to be. That is why I started by saying, guys, 1 minute. Yes. So my woman said I should put a hat on. So that the objective that you have is going to determine how your feeding program is going to be. While someone is feeding his animals to get fat, you as a breeder might not necessarily want your animals to get fat, because once they get fat, they have the tendency to not be able to come again. You can't see me. Oh, who can see me, please? Oh, you can see. Uh-huh. You can see me and the slide as well. You are seeing only. Oh, who else is seeing myself and my slide? So those of you who can see me, it's probably your network. Yes, it's probably the network. Yes. Um, so, like I was saying, the essence is to make sure that the objective that you have, and I clearly said someone's objective is to make sure that he fatten his animals. Another one's objective is to make sure that his animals breed so well. Another person's objective is to make sure that his 6 months, 7 months, 10 old months, animal can be able to grow fast enough for him to sell. You get it? So the objective that you have is going to determine how your feeding program is going to be. While someone might focus on increasing energy, another person might focus on giving his animals more, protein. While someone might focus on protein and energy, someone might focus on giving his animals fiber. While someone objective might let him go into intensive farming, someone's objective will let you go into semi-intensive farming. So the way you are going to feed your animals is going to determine on the objective that you have. Please, am I well understood here? So great to know that. But at least I'm sure all of you can see my screen, right? Okay. So in animal feeding, once you want to feed your animals, there are four functional feed categories. So that is to say, if you let's say Yusuf Tunteya, you want to feed your animals, there are four categories that you should be targeting. And the four categories that you are targeting, um, each and every one of them is going to have the target that you want to reach. It is your objective that is going to let you influence any of these four functional feed systems. So we have energy, we have protein, we have fiber, and we have minerals. So you want to construct a feed that has a balance of these four functional feed categories. So if these ones are not very balanced, the last time I was telling the other audience that just like we have balanced diet for human beings. When these functional categories are not balanced, then it means that you are not giving your animals balanced diet. That is where you see that they are having bloating, they are getting student growth, they are not, they don't grow proportionally. You realize that from the bottom up, the legs up to the thighs level, so the legs up to the neck level can be very slim, and the stomach up is very fat. So in that, you can get bow-legged animals and all that. Please mute. Please mute yourself. Okay. So, like I was saying, it's when you don't feed well, when you don't strike a balance between these four, that is going to, have your animals grow in a way that you don't like. For instance, someone can call and say, okay, I've brought in my animals, and I've realized that when I bought them from this farmer, they've only lost weight, they've not gained weight. This is a feeding problem. You can also realize that someone will tell you, oh, my animals, their stomachs are getting bigger, but the rest of their bodies are not getting bigger. This is, um, This is a feeding problem. So when you are able to strike a balance between these four functional categories, that is where you can be feeding right, and that is when your animals are going to grow as you plan. So the feeding is not about the quantity that you give your animals, huge volumes of feed to feed on. It is about the performance per currency you are spending on your animal. For instance, if Madam A is spending $20 worth of feed on her animal, it means that at the time of the growth period where she want to sell her animal, the animal should be able to get about $20 and more. The $20 will account for the feed she spent for the amount of money she spent on feed, and the remainder will be profit for her. But if you spend so much money on feeding, and at the end of the day you sell your animals, and you are unable to strike a balance between the cost of feed and the selling price of your animal, it means you are running at a loss. Remember, the essence of this training is to make sure that young farmers understand that farming is business, so that when you engage in farming, you are going to strike a balance, because 60% to 70% of animal, housing, animal rearing cost is on feeding, because every day your animals have to feed, especially those that are in those that are in as intensive system. You have to feed your animals morning, afternoon, evening, and sometimes in the night. So you want to make sure that the cost of feeding is far lesser than the selling price. The CP is less than the selling price, so that you can make profits. When the cost price of feeding is far more than the selling price, it means you are running at a loss and your farm is not sustainable, or in that case, it's not a business, it's a luxury for you. You get it? So improper feeding, long term, I already said it, it will lead to pot belly. You see your animals are having pot bellies. They continuously lose weight. And sometimes improper feeding can lead to loss of lives of your animals because they are not feeding properly. I'll give you examples as we go on. So now, the most important aspect of feeding is to make sure that, like I said, the four classification, want to make sure that your local available feed function in these four areas: energy drivers, protein builders, fiber stabilizers, and mineral support. So don't import feed. Well, I'm saying that with a capital letter underlined. You might import feed if necessary, but don't make feed importation your primary objective. That you are starting an animal farm, or you already have an animal farm, and your primary objective is to import feed. In most cases, I'm not saying all cases, in most cases, feed importation will lead to losses. Why? Because at the end of the day, the transportation cost alone of bringing in feed can be, can be devastating, because you spend a lot of money to feed your animals. Once that happens, it means that, you know you cannot be able to get your a return on investment. Like I said, the first example, you are spending $200 on feeding your animals, and at the end of the day you sell your animals for far less. I have someone whose hand is there at Sanda. Do you want to say something? Sanda, is there something you want to say? Okay. So what I'm saying is that, uh, can you hear me? Sanda, can you hear me? Sanda, can you hear me? So I'm saying that there are four functional categories. Okay, great. I'm saying that that is true. That is true. So I'm saying that there are four functional categories in animal feeding. So that is to say, any feed that you are giving to your animals, you want to make sure that your feeding is having these, four categories. And I said, number one, energy. Energy. The first one is energy. Make sure that you have good energy sources, right? You have good energy sources. Now, the second one is you want to make sure that you have good protein sources, right? You have good protein sources. Now, the third aspect is that you want to make sure that you have good fiber sources. And the fourth is you have to make sure that you have what? Good mineral sources. So, one, you have your energy drivers, you have protein builders, you have fiber stabilizers, and you have mineral support. So, a balanced feed should contain these four feed functions in their right proportions. Please, am I well understood? It should contain good energy, it should contain good protein, it should contain good fiber, and it should have sufficient mineral support. When these four functions are well balanced, that is when you have a balanced feed for your animals. When these are not balanced, it means that your animals might have problem when it comes to feeding them. That is where you realize that your animals are not balanced proportionally. You realize that they are getting pot bellies. You realize that even though you are feeding them, you are doing all your best, but your animals are rather losing weight. So when this happens, it means that one among these four functions is not is not proportionate. Do you get me right? It means that it's either the energy drivers are not enough, it's either the protein builders are not enough, it's either the fiber stabilizers are not enough, or there is not sufficient mineral support. Or overall, there is not a well balance between these four, compartments that we've mentioned. So if you are going to feed your animals, the feed you are providing for your animals, you want to make sure that it has all these four functions in their right, you know, you have all these four categories in their right proportions. Are we together? Are we together? Great. So now I'm giving all of us, I'm giving all of us 2 minutes to take a very good look at this table. What I want you to see is the feed ingredients. I believe all of us have these ingredients in our local sources. The maize grain itself, maize, the maize bran, the rice bran, beans husk, soya bean dust, kuli kuli, that is granite cake, granite hulls, the remains after granite is being harvested, cassava peels, cassava leaves, moringa leaves, fresh grass, maize leftover. Please, do we all have these feed ingredients? Who is here that don't have any of these feed ingredients? Great. So now take a look at them. I want you to study the crude protein level, whether it's 8 to 9%, 10 to 12%. Please look at it very well, understand it, and look at the energy level. What's happening? Please, can you all mute? Please, are we together? Someone is please unmute so that it will not give me that echo. So take a good look at that table for like oh for like a minute or two, then we'll pick it up from there. Please, Sandra, don't unmute yourself. When I unmute you, don't unmute. Yes, I'm not talking. I'm saying that kindly take your time and look through the table on your screen. There's currently a table on your screen. I want you to understand it. These are the local feed sources available. So I want each and every one of you to understand the percentage crude protein, the energy level, and the fiber level of these various local feed that are available to all of you. Okay? Are we together? Take your time. It's now 4:34. At 4:36, Perez, Perez, welcome. So at 4:36, I'll continue. But I just want, if you have a daughter, or you can take your phone and snap it down. We'll come back to it. All right, sure. The network is what? Oh, then it means that you have to place yourself well. It's probably your it's probably your location. I think most of us, most of the people can hear me very well. Or you all have that problem. Uh-huh. Right. Mhm. So kindly pushing yourself well. All right. Okay. Okay. So now, if you are all good with this, before we proceed, I want all of us to understand the amount of feed a sheep or goat or someone is. Oh, we can please let's discuss these things. I'll share them with you. I'll share with you. Okay. I didn't share with the previous group, the first group of attendants because we are I a lot of people reach out to me that we should have the training again. But after this is done, I'll share the slide with all of you, and I'll probably provide you as well. Okay, great. So let's proceed. Let's proceed. All right. All right. So now that all of us have captured it, a goat or sheep or cattle they require about 3 to 5% of their body weight daily in feed. Do you understand me? So if you want to feed your animal, make sure that it is feeding on 3 to 5% of its entire body weight. So if it's 10 kilograms, let's say you have a sheep and this sheep is 10 kilograms, you want to make sure that on daily basis, your sheep is able to feed on about 3 to 5 kilograms worth of feed. Sorry, is able to feed on 300 grams to 500 grams worth of feed. If your cow is 100 kilograms, you want to make sure that your cow is feeding on, um, you know, 3 kilograms to 5 kilogram weight of feed. If it is feeding, if your cow or sheep is about, or your goat is about 100 kilograms and is feeding on, let's say, 2 kilograms worth of feed on daily basis, it means it is being underfed. Okay. Now, on the other hand, if your cow or your sheep or your goat is 100 kilograms and is feeding on 7%, sorry, 7 kilograms worth of feed, it means that you are overfeeding your animal. This is very important. Sometimes overfeeding can have similar dire consequences as compared to underfeeding. Overfeeding usually lead to your animal having too much fat, and sometimes it can affect the reproductive cycle of that animal, both male and female. For the male, it grows so fat that it cannot chase, it cannot cross, and the female, it grows so fat that you sometimes need folic acid to be able to allow the animal to actually conceive. But that notwithstanding, if your aim is to fatten for festive season, whether it's Christmas or it's Eid for the Muslims, Christmas or Easter for the Christians, if it's this target, then it's fine. Sorry. So let's calculate this. I'm just giving all of us like 30 seconds to 1 minute. So let's assume that your goat or sheep is 30 kilograms. How much feed does it require on a daily basis? Just less than a minute. You should be able to do this. Uh-huh. Are we together? Yes. The answer is, who is having this answer? You have a 30 kilogram sheep. You want to feed it daily. What is the average, or what is the possibly, kilograms of that you can? 1.5. You said 1.5. Okay. Who else? Is he right? Please. He said 1.5. Is he right? Who? Someone said 3.5. Okay. Who else? So uh, it is as the first person said, it should be one at maximum 1.5. It should be 0.9 to 1.5. Okay. 0.9 to 1.5. Okay. So let's proceed. So now remember the slide I asked you to take note of. With that slide, um, you should be able to now calculate your crude protein, the amount of protein you need to be able to, feed your animals. For instance, if your animal is kidding, by kidding I mean a young animal, that you want it to grow fat, it will require, it has just stopped milking them, just stopped taking milk. You need about 16 to 18% protein in the feed. So that is to say, remember our feed, we said protein sources or protein contributors. Please, I need you guys to mute. Andrew, please mute yourself. So the crude protein you need for a kid that have just stopped milking, and that have just stopped taking milk from the mother, is 16 to 18%. If it is growing, you need 14 to 16% protein. If it's a breeding female, you need about 14 to 16% protein. If it is for fattening, you need 14 to 16%. If it is late pregnancy in the third trimester, you need 14 to 16%. So you need that table to be able to calculate these vital, target crude protein. Now, let's come to simple feed formulation. So you, let's say last week we had Amatolai. So let's say Amatulai want to calculate a feed, want to formulate a feed for her animal. So she has maize bran and beans husk. She want to calculate a feed that will contain about 16% protein for grower, a grower goats or sheep. So she want to mix maize bran and soybeans dust. Okay, maize bran, sorry, and beans husk. So what is the percentages that the percentages that she can use to calculate her feed? Now, please, are we together? Are you guys with me? Okay. So we already know that our maize bran contain about 11% crude protein, and our soybean does contain about 38% crude protein. But we want our crude protein to be at least 16%. So it means that there have to be a balance or a proportional mixture of soybeans dust and maize bran so that we get our overall 16% crude protein, right? So let's say Amatullah go ahead to pick 62 kilograms worth of maize bran and 38 kilograms worth of soybeans dust. So now let's calculate. Will we get a good ration for our growers? So now, how do we calculate this? This is probably the most slide in the entire training. So 62 kilograms of maize bran, and we said maize bran have an overall protein, crude protein of 11%. So we now pick 62 kilograms multiplied by 11%. 11% is equivalent to 0.11, basic mathematics. So meaning the 62 kilograms of maize bran will contain 6.8 overall crude protein. If we pick 38 kilograms of soybean dust, we multiply 38 kilograms by 38%, which is 0.38, we'll get 14.4 crude protein. So if we add 6.8 to 14.4, we'll get 21.2 overall crude protein. But remember, we said we want 16% crude protein for our growers. So which means that we are going to be overfeeding with this ration. It means that we are going to overfeed our animals with so much protein, but we don't want to fatten them. We really want them to grow. So we have to what? Recalibrate. So let's increase the volume of our maize bran. So we increase it to 80 kilograms, and we reduce our soybean dust by 20 kilograms. In this case, we will now pick 80 kilograms, multiply by 0.11, which is the total percentage of crude protein in our maize bran. Then we multiply 20 kilograms by 38%, which is the overall what? Percentage of crude protein in our soybean dust. So we'll get our maize bran will now contain 8.8 overall crude protein, and our soybean dust will contain 7.6 overall crude protein. So when you add 8.8 to 7.6, you get an overall 16.4 crude protein, which means that a ration that contains 80 kilogram maize bran and 20 kilogram soybean dust is a balanced ration for your growers. Do we understand? Please, do we all understand? Yes. For maize brand, for the brands, maize brand, soybean brand, the measurement will work. But when you begin to pick things like kuli kuli, you begin to bring like cassava, pills, maize pills, the weight will be very important because cassava is relatively, it has more weight than maize bran. You get it? Fadima, do you understand? So whilst this will work, so if you are going to, let's say from today to go, you are now going to, although I will not advise it, but let's say you say, okay, I'm going to use soybeans dust and only soybeans brand and only maize brand. For that one, you can even use both. So just like we said, 20 and 80, you can bring it down and put what, 8 bowls and 2 bowls. It's going to work for you. Or you can further scale it down, 4 bowls and 1 bowl. It's going to work because they all have similar weight. But when you begin to introduce things like cassava pearls, which you introduce in subsequent slides, it's not likely to work. Although you can still estimate it. You don't have to bring a scale. Of course, if you can, it's good, but you don't necessarily have to restrict yourself to bringing a scale. To You can always estimate. But the reason why I'm doing the calculations is that once you get this calculation right, trust me, if you do this calculation 1 2 3, you know how to do it. You will not even need. I have a scale in my farm, but I don't use it because I understand how to measure it myself without using the scale. Nothing will go wrong if you don't use a scale. You get it? Voila. Yes. Yes. A minute. 1 minute, please. Okay, so that was just by the way. Now that you all understand, let's go to our next slide. I want each and every one of us to build our own feed with a crude protein of 16%, and within 5 to 10 minutes time, you tell me. So I'm going to take us back to that table. The the rule in this assignment is that don't use maize bran again. Don't use maize bran, but you can use soybeans bran, but don't use maize bran. Maize bran is out. The second rule is that don't use just 2 feed ingredients. Use 3. So you can use rice bran, maize grain, kuli kuli. You can use soybean dust, granite hulls, cassava pearls. Apart from maize bran, you can use all of these. And the second rule is that do not use 2. Just like we use the example, we use maize bran and soybeans bran. Please use 3. Use 3 feed components. I want to make sure that everybody who devoted their time to this training understand very well. This is the important aspect of the entire training. So, do we understand the assignment? Do we understand? Okay. I'm saying that build your own feed. Okay? Build your own feed with a crude protein of 16%. Right? You are targeting 16% crude protein. Use 3 feed sources. And I'm taking us back to the feed slide, the local available feed slide. And I'm saying that on this slide, you can use maize grain, you can use rice bran, you can use beans husks, soybean dust, kuli kuli, granite hulls, cassava pearls, cassava leaves, moringa, fresh grass, maize tover. But you cannot use maize bran. Maize bran is out. That is the first rule. The second rule is that don't formulate your feed with only 2 feed ingredients. Use 3 or more. 3 or more feed ingredients, and maize bran is not part. Do you understand? Do we all understand? So it's now 4:52. We are going to resume at exactly 5 o'clock. I'm giving you 8 minutes to do this assignment. Hi, I can hear you. Yes, because I use it as an example. You're welcome. Kawalin ko na yang. Eh?